Described as a watershed moment in India's retail sector is ONDC, or the Open Network for Digital Commerce platform in the country. It's an ambitious project that aims to empower small retailers and mom and pop stores by actually integrating them into the e-commerce ecosystem. Joining in right now to talk a little bit more about it is T Koshy. He is the CEO at ONDC. Thank you so much, Mr. Koshy, for taking time out and being with us on Startup Central. To begin with, clearly this is an ambitious plan by the government with respect to ONDC, bringing that digital transformation in the e-commerce space. Tell us a little bit more, because the country seems to have been waiting for this for quite some time.
The attempt for ONDC to establish an open network for digital commerce, which essentially means that every seller will have the equal opportunity to represent his product to the wide audience of digital consumers in the country without being restricted by which platform the consumer is coming from. Which would mean, if I just go a little more specific, today, if you are a seller and you want to join, so let's say, platform X, you are visible only to the buyers in platform X. And if you want to be visible to the buyers in platform Y, then you have to join them also too. Whereas in an open network, if you are a seller in any platform, the whole population of digital consumers, which soon will become 1 billion plus, will be your potential consumers.
Well, Mr. Koshy, if we were to talk about the rollout timeline, because many expected that it would be a little bit quicker, but the pace has not quite kept up, your response?
When you say rollout, like I said, it is what we are doing is we are having more and more merchants coming in, and we are there in 220 cities there with more than 100 merchants in at least 17, 18 cities. And with each of the new addition, new NPs, like for example, they come with a bundle of new merchants. So in that way, the kind of numbers that we had planned for is very much in line what we thought. In fact, the way the mobility picked up was much faster than we even imagined. And we were hoping that, probably end of March, it might be 5,000 total transaction, whereas it is much higher. But the mix is different. But and in terms of the, more and more network participants integrating, more and more merchants integrating, which all take probably a few more months to come in, are keeping the tempo as we expected, or even in the same line as we expected.
And there's always been that allegation, so I have to ask you, Mr. Koshy, that ONDC is trying to take away customers from the giants like Amazon and Flipkart. What is your take on that?
I think that is sort of a wrong way of looking at it. What ONDC see today, if you look at while you and I may be active users of digital commerce, the digital commerce penetration in our country is only about 6 to 7% that too after the fantastic growth that we saw in the last 2-3 years. That is on the buying side. On the selling side, it is about 2 to 3%. So it is not. So the idea of open network is it's an inclusive network, allowing big guys and small guys. The big difference is everybody has the equal opportunity. Whether you are a seller in a small platform or a big platform, you have visibility to all the players. So anybody who wants to join has to follow this rule. There is no different rule for big or different rule for small. Everybody has to follow the same rule. So it is, I believe that it is not a question of somebody taking away. Probably there will be some going this way and that way, but it's a question of expanding the market. If you remember, this is what happened when we tried to bring openness in the payment side. We used to have something like 250 million transactions a month from the existing card and card players and the wallet players, which has now become more than 8 billion. It is not that it has taken from this 300 million. They also grow, but the total market grew. And what we expect is a similar kind of expansion with respect to the sellers and buyers. And what we are also seeing now that there is an equal opportunity for every seller, we are seeing fantastic traction and support coming from entities like SIDBI, like NABARD, SFAC, Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise, etc., to provide active support to that smaller segment of merchants and entrepreneurs to make their product visible.
Fair enough. And could you walk us through some of the challenges that ONDC currently is facing?
Okay, I will say the two challenges. One is to get more people aware of the idea of an open network. When I say today also, we are all used to using, let's say, one platform or the other. And now there is, so a lot of people ask you, what is this ONDC super platform or a super app or anything? There is nothing. There are going to be a diverse set of buyer application and seller application. So it's a new way of people understanding and appreciating the opportunity that they can go to a PhonePe pin code or or a Paytm or Spice Money. They can buy grocery or buy food, or even eventually they'll be able to hail a taxi or a cab, etc. So this is a new way of being there in digital commerce. So getting this message across to a broader cross-section of buyers. And on the other side, when we said that we are going to help larger cross-section of sellers, as you know, only a very, very small percentage of sellers are familiar with digital commerce. While technology is straight away done and proven, we as each of them come to this new way of doing things, we need to help them with the appropriate business processes, good practices, on especially with respect to branding, order confirmation, order fulfillment, linking up appropriately with the logistics, etc. So it is all about bringing that literacy, which is a very powerful idea. And secondly, even the way they advertise today, for example, if you are a seller in any digital platform, how you will be visible is also a function of what is the relationship and what is the incentive structure that you agreed with the platforms. Whereas in an open network, even if you're a small seller or a big seller, you have equal opportunity to the extent that you can just say that I'm available in ONDC, check any of the open platform, any of the open buying platform that is there. You don't have to give any incentive to any buying platform for you to be visible. It is going to be a journey. You would have seen in any such large project that we have taken in our country, have taken that time. If you remember when UPI launched by the finance minister in 2016, April, for many months, there are practically very limited transaction. But today it has reached 8 billion. And I believe that is probably we may see even a faster adoption in the coming years. But it is going to be a journey where all of us, all this buyer platform and seller platform, etc., has to work together.
So you've been testing, the platform has been testing, grocery and food delivery as well in some of the select cities. Is that going to be one of the key focal points? And has that been really the toughest to crack?
No, it is getting, especially like you said, we are getting more and more much. Like I said, between these two categories, other than when I gave you the numbers, almost 30,000 are food and grocery, because the other domains were only introduced in the last couple of weeks there. But you will see them also increasing numbers. But like I said, each of the, like I said, about 35% of those merchants have never done e-commerce. So we had extensive, trained people going and explaining to them how to create the catalog, how to make it available, how to respond to an order that came through the network, and so on and so forth.
I understand as well that ONDC has, any entity who joins the platform, they have to sign a standard non-negotiable network-wide agreement on the policies. What's the rationale for that?
Okay, quickly, if I say that this is like a community of buying application and selling application. And it is, like I said, democratized. It means that everybody has to agree to the same agreement, which is a public agreement you can pick up from our site and see. So that anybody who joins knows what is the rule in which everybody else is operating. And to the public, to the buyer and seller. And that agreement also incorporate as its part the network policies which will continuously evolve. Even that's also a mandatory part. So that's why everybody plays with the same set of rules. And it's a public document.
What are the plans for ONDC to create that online dispute resolution mechanism over the next few months?
What you're saying is at the end of it, there could be some cases where the buyer will have some challenges or some clarification. So what we have done is issue and grievance handling mechanism framework have been established. As of now, it is semi-automatic, and in next couple of months, it will be fully automatic. What it means that if Anybody has any issue, any buyer has an issue, he will have to take it to the buying application through the system, just like the search and the order placement went through digitally. All these things will also go through digitally with strict service level standards expected from the sellers and the seller applications. And if by chance any of them are unable to be resolved, what we have provided for is an online dispute resolution. As you are aware that ODR is a big concept shaping up in India in a big way, and there's a large number of entities who are offering the service, and lakhs of such things are being handled, not in the commerce, but in other areas. And the Sahamadi, which is the account aggregator consortium, have also already onboarded about 7 ODR experts. So as a starting point, we have allowed them to be our ODR panel, and we'll work towards adding more. So the beauty is that if there is any dispute, we have fantastic digital audit trail. There is what is the buyer asked for, what was he offered, who offered, what conditions, what was agreed. Everything is digitally and verified document. What was delivered, when was delivered, what was the price, who are the seller, who was the person who delivered. Everything is completely digitally there. And the ODR mechanism will, and when it is fully automated, will allow these things to be pulled in by the ODR platforms, evaluate and take a decision based on facts. So we believe that facility itself will reduce the probability of problems that are lying unresolved. And moreover, again, these performance with respect to every seller and seller application with respect to how they behave in terms of issue and grievance management and how many are going to become dispute, etc., is going to be publicly visible information.
Given that the penetration of e-commerce, Mr. Koshy, is just about 5 to 6%, how are you looking to expand the e-commerce penetration and the customer base for ONDC?
As I told you, there are different enterprises who are coming as buying application. The beauty in an open network is that any enterprise can become a buying application, because today, if you have to become an e-commerce player, you not only have to establish an interface for the buyers, you have to go and list all the sellers. Now that the availability of sellers is given, can be taken for granted by any buying application, which would mean there will be variety of enterprises like bankers, like telcos, like fintech, and even startups becoming buying application. And all of them, they don't have to worry about who has got more sellers, because sellers are common for everybody. They have to worry about how to go and tell their clients. If you look at, for example, Paytm and PhonePe, they had a large buyer base. They're saying that, hey, now you can use ONDC network to use. So each of them will, along with us together, will be taking an extra effort to popularize this. And we believe that is the effort that will start bearing fruits in the coming months to get more and more broader participation. And secondly, if you also look at today, as you very correctly said, the penetration only 5 to 6%, that too of the elite of the country. Although there are many buyers and sellers from tier 2 and tier 3 cities, but they are also the elite. So if you look at the kind of products available and the kind of sellers available are only meant for that cross-section. Whereas now, again, variety of selling platforms are going to bring variety of sellers and merchants who have hitherto not been in the online network. For example, if I just give an example, Kudumbashree is an SHG network in Kerala. And there is another one called Azol from Maharashtra, who's also a network of SHGs making the very, very deshi products, but helped in marketing and packaging, etc., by professionals. So when all of them come, and as I said earlier, they can all directly reach across to these customers without paying any special charge to the buying platform. They just advertise themselves. Everybody is treated equally. So this collective effort of the buyers and the sellers is what we believe is going to expand the market, just as you saw in the UPI case. When the convenience increased, when the options became broader and broader, and the cost became more competitive, you saw a broader participation. And that's what we believe will happen here too.
Now, coming to the technology part, there is some allegations that against the big two, that they actually went ahead and they favored some of the in-house sellers via their algorithm. So how does ONDC plan to keep it neutral?
Oh, one thing is, like, this is an open network. As I told you earlier, no All buying applications are loyal only to their buyers, not to the sellers. See, the whole algorithm, etc., become relevant when I have a conflict of interest. When I have certain sellers who are giving me some extra incentive, I have all the reason to come and push certain sellers to you as a buyer. When this buying application and selling application is unbundled, for example, PhonePe is a buying application, like Paytm is a buying application. Of course, PhonePe has branded their buying application pin code, and their loyalty is to the buyers. So they will say that, unless I help my buyers to make the right choice, and if I try to push some product, his competition will come and say, hey, he's trying to push something that is not good for you. So that's why the very basic model of this unbundling will force better behavior. Even probably you may ask me a question. Let's say that some entity which is both on the buying side and selling side come in, then what would happen? There again, the selling person, the vice president in charge of a seller application, want to make sure his sellers have more broader buyers, not just his close buyers, because otherwise that sellers will run away somewhere where it is better. And same is on the other side. So the very basic design of the model of an open network, making them completely interoperable, will naturally drive these kind of issues out in the market.
Can you just give us a sense as to how you're looking at ONDC actually having evolved over the past many years, what the outlook is now in terms of really capitalizing on the technological revolution in India?
No, let's take the last one, what I said as a question. Why we have started with the minimum viable product? When it is unbundled, it means that different enterprise can specialize in each building block of transaction. It could be buyer interface, it could be seller interface, it could be catalog creation, it could be warehousing, it could be logistics, it could be payment, each of them. But common protocol will ensure that they're all nicely stitched together without the buyer worrying about it or the seller worrying about it. That would mean humongous amount of potential for innovation and specialization. So we are working with different enterprises to even encourage, like StartUp, Invest India, SIDBI, NABARD, state IT department, MSP department, etc., to organize hackathons and interactive sessions for the startups, etc., to even working with academic institutions, incubators, and so on and so forth, to encourage them to come with innovations and giving them a fair opportunity to compete based on the quality.
Mr. Koshy, it's been a pleasure having you on board. Thank you so much for joining in and walking us through the ins and outs of ONDC. Good to have you on board.